My name is John Pasfield, and the title of this reading will be Shakespeare and Cleopatra, video 28. Questions, questions, questions. So this is my novel, Shakespeare and Cleopatra. My life is not my own. Here's a summary on the back cover. Cleopatra is dead, hovering between life and the afterlife. By some strange process, she becomes aware that a playwright is telling her story. Who is this Shakespeare? What does he know about her? What kind of Cleopatra does he intend to create? He seems to be unaware of her presence, but perhaps if she talks to him as he writes, she can exercise some control over the story of a life that she fears is no longer her own. Well, famous people die, and they wonder how they're going to be presented by some people after their death, and therefore perceived by other people. They don't really know. Cleopatra fears that she might be made to look like a clown or a buffoon, like a time waster, a party girl, maybe we would say. So, and she doesn't know who William Shakespeare is. Now, you and I know William Shakespeare. He's writing her play, and it's Antony and Cleopatra, so not only a perfectly respectable play to have written about you if you're Cleopatra, the famous queen of Egypt, but a very highly regarded piece of literature. But she doesn't know that, so she's very, very worried, right? So that's the story then. Cleopatra's in a room with Shakespeare. I know, and you know, as a modern person, what he's writing, but she doesn't know, and she's very worried. Now, there are 3 sets of questions in each chapter of thought of Cleopatra, the main character of this novel. Each of these sets has 3 questions. So I'll read these questions and talk about the questions as a technical device. So there's 16 chapters of thought in the mind of Cleopatra. In each chapter of thought, there are 3 sets of questions, and each set of questions has 3 questions. So that's 9 per chapter. Times 9 questions per chapter times 16 chapters if you want to do the math. I will read them, and then I'll talk about them. So, have you come back from the dead? Have you begun your afterlife? Or is there a membrane that you haven't yet broken through? Do you feel yourself to be in a sort of limbo, poised somewhere between life and the afterlife? Is there a sense of unfinished business that you feel you must pursue? Okay, then. Can you hear my voice? Am I getting through to you? Or am I asking these questions in vain? That's chapter 1. Chapter 2. At what time period would you say you are in? How long has it been since the day of your demise? Have you any sense of how much time has passed? Okay, then the second set in that chapter. So, is this fellow answering your questions? Does he acknowledge your presence in any way? Can you tell by any signs that he hears your voice? Is any good going to come of this encounter? Do you think you can get through to him at all? Does this threaten to be a meaningless exercise? How'd you get inside the palace at Alexandria? Did you bribe your brother's guards? Did you have yourself rolled up inside a rug? Well, maybe the novel will answer that question, maybe not. Missing one here. Where is it? Here it is. Did Caesar say that he wanted to be a monarch? Did he confide to you that he wanted to be king of Rome? Did he promise you that you would be his queen? Okay, and then another set of questions. What exactly was your relationship with Julius Caesar? Would you say that the two of you were ever in love? Or did you think of yourself as Egypt and of he as Rome? Okay, we're on to chapter 4's questions now. These are all chapters of thought in the mind of the main character. She, part of her mind, is asking herself, another part of the mind, these questions. Are you being honest with the playwright to whom you're talking? Are you telling him the worst as well as the best? Are you interested in your legend or in the truth? Then, do you think that the playwright wants to change your story to fit whatever message he might wish to say? Might your story become a vehicle for personal concerns? This is something she's worried about, of course. Has he given any indication that he's aware that you are present? Do you think that the playwright hears the words you say? Do you think that it would make any difference if he did? What is a play? What does it do? Would a play about you be fiction or be fact? Why would a writer take another person's story and then melt it down as one would melt silver or gold, and then pour that story into another form? Have you any idea what the playwright will add to your story? Have you any idea what he was going to leave out? At what point will it not be your story at all? Has he been writing for long, or is this just the beginning of his career? Do you know of any other plays that he's written? Would it be reassuring if you could see them played? Do you wonder why he's chosen to write about you out of all the historical figures that he could portray? Do you wonder how many lives he has put on the stage? What are those doodles that he scratches all over his pages? The pained old man, the prince in black, and that balcony girl. Are these doodles some of the characters that he portrays? Did you watch a lot of plays in Alexandria? Were these the plays that had been written in ancient times? The plays of an Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides? Are you familiar with the queens in the ancient Greek drama? Clytemnestra, Jocasta, and all the rest? Did you empathize? I'll say that again. Did you empathize with the queens that you saw on the stage? Did you see yourself as something of an actress? Did you feel you were setting a scene and acting a part? What is the difference between an actress and a queen? Now we're on to chapter 8 out of 16 chapters of thought. Where do you think you go when the mist swirls around you? Are you able to think of these visits while you're away? Do you think about what you will say when you return? Did you have contact with anyone, or do you have contact with anyone in the afterlife? Do you negotiate with this force of which you seem so aware? Do you receive any indication of intent at all? Like, what's this force up to that has put you in the same room with Shakespeare, but makes you uncertain as to whether you're having any influence over him? Do you know what's going on behind the scenes, I guess is the question. Are you expected to come to some conclusion about your life while you're in limbo? Is this play to be your penance for the shape of your shadow while you are alive? Does your afterlife depend on the words that this playwright fellow will give to the actress who's going to play your part? Did you actually dissolve a pearl? Did you drink it as a liquid in a glass of wine? Did you do this to beat Antony in a wager? Well, these are rumors about her. Like, well, what's true about you? We've heard many rumors. Did you think of Antony as a second Julius Caesar? Did you think he would be easier to control? How does each compare in terms of value to you? So she had two great relationships, one with Julius Caesar, who then was stabbed in the Senate, and one with Antony. who, of course, lost the Battle of Actium. So how do you compare them? What exactly was your relationship with Mark Antony? Would you say that the two of you were ever in love? Or did you think of yourself as Egypt and of he as Rome? Suppose the ink was not staining the playwright's fingers. Suppose he decided to shave that silly wisp of a beard. Suppose he was dressed in Roman armor or Egyptian robes. Suppose he had at least a drop of royal blood. Suppose he could trace his line to one of the lesser gods. Suppose he would leave that desk and that ink and give up on plays. Would you forget about Caesar and Antony, or add this fellow to the statuary, an equal third? You think you could be attracted to such a man? Okay. Was Greek the language with which you were most familiar? Did you have bards who read to you in the evenings? When you were alone or when you entertained, did they read the classical texts of earlier times? Did you have bards chant verses from the Iliad? Did the Odyssey have any significance for you? Did you pay particular attention to the roles of the queens? Who in the Iliad was the queen to whom you felt the closest? Who in the Odyssey was the queen who was closest to you? Or were you a queen whose likeness Homer never knew? Have you been able to see this fellow's plays? Shouldn't such an opportunity be granted to you? Wouldn't his works reveal his philosophy of life? What kind of plays does this man write? How does he present his major characters? Does he admire or does he despise his kings and his queens? Will this be a tragedy or a farce? Who's he going to cast in your part? That drab who stood on the slop heap and screamed at the stars? Did the actual Jocasta ever meet Sophocles in the way that you are meeting William Shakespeare? Or would you say that you have never met him at all? What have you come to feel you owe to William Shakespeare? What have you come to feel that Shakespeare owes to you? Do you sense that William Shakespeare would agree? What exactly is your relationship with William Shakespeare? Would you say that what is between you is some form of love? Or do you think of him as a scribe and of yourself as a queen? Why would you care what anyone thinks about you after you die? Why such concern with what you take to be your legacy? What is a legend but a bubble that floats and then bursts in the air? How many people did you admire when you were alive? Why would you want the respect of people whom you despise? Why try to impress the shallow, the superficial, and the dull? Don't you think it's a shallow person who clings to earthly things? Isn't earth a place of misery, strife, and discord? Is earth not a place of regrettable but necessary preparation for the oblivious serenity of the afterlife? Do you wish that you lived in a time before Homer? Do you think that your life has been one of epic scope? Is the drama too shallow to capture the depth and the sweep? What would Aeschylus have done with Cleopatra? What would Sophocles have done if he knew of your life? What would Euripides have made of a play about you? Can you see yourself as queen on an ancient Greek statue, a queen depicted in a mural or on a vase? Can the Shakespeare play as a form do justice to you? And the last chapter of thought in the mind of Cleopatra, the questions that part of her mind is asking another part of her mind. Do you think that you alone had already made yourself immortal? Or is this something for which you needed Shakespeare too? Something perhaps that only the two of you, Shakespeare Cleopatra, Cleopatra Shakespeare, could possibly do. Do you feel that history has captured your essence, or is that something that only literature can do? Will the people of the future know the essential you? And the last three questions she asked herself. So, what is the meaning of the life of William Shakespeare? What does the story of Cleopatra seem to mean? Why should your two names be linked for all of time? So, questions, questions, questions. I believe that there's a force deep down inside every one of us that questions everything that we do. Sometimes this questioner, this self-questioner, might be a little too easy on us. And sometimes this self-questioner might be a little too harsh. Sometimes this questioner seems to be concerned with superficial questions. Did you enjoy your breakfast or something like that? Questions about our everyday surface lives. And sometimes this questioning voice seems to be concerned with the largest and deepest questions that we humans have asked ourselves about the world and our place in it. So, in thinking of the questions that the inner voice is asking Cleopatra as she goes through the experience of knowing that someone's writing a play about her, which will be her legacy among the human beings who come after her, we readers can wonder whether the voice that is asking the questions, the voice that represents a particular level of thinking and feeling in the mind of Cleopatra, is being too easy or too harsh on the other compartments of Cleopatra's mind. We can also wonder, since the text does not indicate any answers, whether Cleopatra, number one, is ignoring all these questions, number two, is answering all these questions, or number three, is picking and choosing which questions to answer and which questions to leave aside. And if this last is the case, picking and choosing, number one, is she avoiding the easy questions and tackling the difficult questions, or number two, is she avoiding the difficult questions and tackling the easy questions? As I said, there's no direct way of answering my questions about her response to her own questions. However, it might be possible for a reader of this novel to evaluate Cleopatra as a character by considering the topics of the question minor cycle of imagery and concentrating on that. So the kinds of questions she's asking herself, whether we know she's answering them or not, would tell us something about her. Incidentally, it's interesting to think that since the cataloging and evaluation of the importance of the various questions is a speculative exercise for the reader, perhaps there would be as much revealed about the reader as would be revealed about the character Cleopatra. So whatever questions you consider to be important or unimportant tell us something about you, I would think. Okay, lastly, I'll simply say that this is my book, Shakespeare and Cleopatra. My Life is Not My Own. It's found on Amazon, where there's more information. It's found on my publisher's website, roxmillspress.com. More information there. On my website, johnpassfield.ca, there are 2 free books, my planning notebook about this novel and my journal of reflection about this novel. If you go to johnpassfield.ca and click on either of those 2 icons, cover icons, you'll have those books to read. So lastly, I'll say thank you for watching this video.